Hello, I'm Tony Guida. This is My New York. Welcome to part 2 of The Long Goodbye. The show is closing. I'm heading for the Black Forest, lovely woods, deep and dark. But I have promises to keep, like showing more gems from the TGNY highlight reel. Next. Let's begin with Charles Osgood, CBS's eminent Swiss Army knife. On radio, the Osgood File, where he often delivered news items in verse or sometimes sang them while playing piano. On television, CBS Sunday Morning, elegance clad in a bow tie. Osgood was born for radio. He was a natural at it, but television, not so much. I heard you say that television scared you. At first, you were afraid to go on television.
Well, I had done radio for a million years.
Yeah.
And I really liked working in radio because it's been said that radio is the theater of the mind. And once you have a picture, the picture dictates what you have to say.
Mike Wallace came along with very welcome advice.
The first show that I ever anchored, the first evening news show, was a Saturday night, and I was substituting for Roger Mudd.
Mm-hmm. What did Mike Wallace tell you that got you over your anxiety?
He said, come to my office on Monday morning and bring a copy of that show with you. He said, you need help. And he said, sitting behind that desk, you looked as if you were a guy who had been sent into that room to empty the wastebaskets. And you were there emptying the wastebaskets, and you looked up and you saw Walter Cronkite's desk. And so you went over to it and you sat down in the chair saying, I hope nobody sees me sitting in Walter Cronkite's chair. Right. And he said, so the public sees you, and if you don't think you belong there, the audience is gonna think that you don't belong there. He said, I know, and so does everybody else at CBS News, that you can do this.
He definitely belonged there. 22 years hosting Sunday Morning. Even longer on the radio. I mentioned his habit of rhyming the news. This may be Charlie's best, inspired by a ridiculous acronym created by the IRS.
I'm looking for something in the news, on the wires, or that I've seen somewhere else. That fascinated me. For example, that the IRS, in describing different categories,
yes,
was looking for, and they gave it a title, which was persons of opposite sex sharing living quarters.
Postal Q.
So Postal Q became an Osgood file, and I put it in a poem, and I put the poem in a book, and it became the title of the book.
And I'm so glad you brought it up, because here's the poem.
There's nothing that I wouldn't do if you would be my Postal Q. You live with me and I with you, and you will be my Postal Q. I'll be your friend and so much more. That's what a Postal Q is for.
Postal Q. POSSLQ, people of opposite sex sharing living quarters.
Which is why it's not popular today, is because people say, why of opposite sex?
Right. By the way, that bow tie Charlie was wearing, it's now in the Smithsonian. So is a bronze bust of Yogi Berra. Yogi was never on this show, but I love to quote him. Why not? For instance, you can observe a lot just by watching. If Gay Talese had a motto, that would be it. Gay made a literary career out of meticulous observation. Hanging around, he called it. In 1966, Esquire magazine asked him to do a profile of Frank Sinatra, but Sinatra wouldn't talk to him. So Gay hung around, observing. The result, a masterpiece of nonfiction entitled Frank Sinatra Has a Cold.
So I started taking people, not renowned personalities, but people on the margin of a superstar's life, such as musicians or dancers or people who used to date or people, as Taylor, for example, long not across far from the Beverly Wilshire Hotel, was a tailor shop called Dick Carroll's. Dick Carroll made suits for Sinatra. I walked in one day and Sinatra said, Dick Carroll said, oh, we make, on average, we're always making two tuxedos for Frank Sinatra, automatically.
Always.
Always making two, because he has about 100 tuxedos, but you always have to have extra tuxedos on the road with this man. I met another woman who said, oh, he wears toupees, you know that? I said, yes. She says, well, I carry 60 toupees around in a little satchel.
She carries what?
60 toupees of Frank Sinatra. 660 in a satchel on the road with him. I said,
this
really?
Is her job.
That's her job. And she told me in those days, I'm making $500 a week or something like that. Doesn't sound like much now, but in those days, it's a pretty good job.
This is the hanging out that you, I think, I don't want to say you're famous for, but you, the first book you ever wrote was Serendipitous Journey,
New York
which
scenes.
is observing from the margins, observing stuff that's not noticed by others. And here you are in Los Angeles, working from the margins and winding up with a marvelous profile
but that's not
of a star.
It's not so far from the way I was born and reared. I was born in the margins. And I'm a boy in a Protestant community. Ocean City was founded by Methodist ministers. My Italian-born father and my Italian-American mother are running a store on the main street of a Protestant town. When you grow up in a store, you learn a lot of things that are great for journalism. My mother ran a dress shop, I told you. Who were the people who were customers? Women. Who were the women she catered to? Overweight, middle-aged women who had deep pockets. The wives of the mayor, the wives of the Cadillac dealer, the wives of the superintendent of schools. The women who had white gloves in the winter and summer, who didn't go to the beach because they were middle-aged and a little overweight, but they were the money people. This is the social strength of the town, the gossips. And they would gossip in my mother's shop, and I'm hearing these stories. The nylons were hard to get. Gas rationing was on. Their son was in Sicily. Their daughter was in a defense plant or working as a nurse, ran off with a serviceman, eloped, all this kind of stuff that goes on in the agencies of a time of war. And I'm an eavesdropping kid, 10 years, 11 years old, behind the counter, listening, and watching the passage of time and the town rotating in and out of a shop. So I was comfortable with Sinatra's people, the marginal people, the trumpet players, the dressers, the girlfriends, the guy that rented cars for Sinatra's troupe. And I interviewed them. And all these people are kind of little spear carrier kind of people talking about it. Frank this, Frank that, Frank this. And I'm writing it down. And it's taking on this shape. So his whole life, like the woman carrying the toupees, is kind of like being a serf in the realm of the Sinatra castle.
I get the sense, Gay, that you feel that this is a better profile than it would have been had Sinatra talked to you.
It would have been. It would have been, even if he would talk to me.
Gay and I talked 7 years ago when his celebrated piece was republished to commemorate the centennial of Sinatra's birth. If you're having trouble breathing these days, it may be because the air is polluted with xenophobia, same as it was during the presidential race 7 years ago. That's when I invited Madeline Sugimoto to this program, thinking of the chronic toxicity of racism. In 1942, this country forced Americans into concentration camps because they were Japanese. Madeline Sugimoto was one of them. She was 5 years old.
One of the things I remember is that we were sitting at picnic tables and really enjoying ourselves. And so I said to
your home community?
Yes, in the community. And I said, oh, this is really, the food was very good, and I was having a good time with my friends because it was a community gathering, I thought. And then I said to my mom, well, when are we going to be going home because it's getting late? And she said, we're not going home. Then I remember sitting with my parents in a train, and it was many, many days that we were in the train. We were allowed to get out and walk along the side of the train for stretching our legs, but basically, I think it was about 3 days of being on the train, and then we ended up in Arkansas,
Really? So you
So-
you were sent from the
California.
San Joaquin Valley of California
Yes,
to Arkansas.
to Arkansas.
Into a camp that had what? Fences and
Barbed wire and,
Barbed
and
wire?
guard towers.
You spent what, 3 years?
3 years, yes.
3 years. What was it like to live like that?
The barracks were all close to each other, so you had access to friends very, very easily. And we always had good times. So as a child, I don't remember it being anything that was sad or difficult. It was really fun. And the thing is, we were in
That's
Arkansas.
so odd to hear, but I think, well, as you point out, you were 5.
Yeah.
It's-
So you have friends and you do things together. And we had really wonderful times. In fact, it was probably a dangerous thing, but our parents didn't know. But we would sneak under the barbed wire fence right underneath where the guard tower was, because that way the MPs, the military police, wouldn't see us. And then we'd sneak outside. We had a good time just hopping around and outside of the camp and then sneaking back in again.
Your father was an artist, a painter,
Yes.
and this one particular painting, Protecting the Flag, is so, it's an interesting commentary on the attitude of the people, many of the people in the camp, because it shows, I think, 3 or several young men in uniform, Japanese
Yes.
boys,
Yes.
in their scout uniforms, protecting an American flag.
It was difficult to try to maintain some kind of stability and harmony because there were strong feelings that were resentment of being in the camps, as well as the fact that people like my Uncle Ralph, who was in the Army. And
Defending the United States.
defending the United States. And I think the ironic part is that he would come in his United States Army uniform, have to stop at the entranceway and meet somebody who was in the same uniform as he is, so that he could come in to see us,
Us,
as
yeah,
the
you're
family.
the family. Afterwards, Madeline, as you became an adult and as you talked more with your parents about this, can you describe the level of their, anger, the wounds, the scars they suffered from this?
It was a terrible, disgraceful, humiliating, and sad time, and so we can remember that. But on the other hand, not have it drag you down so that you feel that ever after you have to constantly feel like a victim. I think we were told to be good citizens and contribute to the life in this country by being educated and doing what we could with our own talents.
Madeline used her talent to become a nurse and professor of nursing at Cornell, New York Hospital. Her father was the renowned artist Henry Sugimoto. Many of his paintings were created in the concentration camps. In 1988, President Reagan apologized to Japanese Americans, saying what this country did was, quote, a grave wrong based solely on race. Let's turn now to a shameful episode in the history of this city, told in this book, Spectacle, The Astonishing Life of Otabenga, written by Pamela Newkirk, professor of journalism at NYU. Who was Otabenga?
Well, Otabenga was a young Congolese man, probably a teenager, who in 1904 was brought to St. Louis to be exhibited at the St. Louis World's Fair.
Brought from the Congo.
Brought from the Congo.
Kidnapped in the Congo.
Pretty much. He was brought by a man who was heavily armed and commissioned by organizers of the St. Louis World's Fair to bring back so-called pygmies, diminutive people of the Central African forest, to exhibit on the fairgrounds as an example of the lowest form of civilization.
And 2 years later,
2 years later,
exhibited in New York.
he ended up on exhibit in the monkey house in a cage with an orangutan.
He was shown in the Bronx Zoo, in the monkey house, in a cage,
Right.
with other
Yes,
primates.
with a sign up describing him in a way that you would describe an animal.
Something like 200,000
Yeah,
people.
Yeah, close to
visited
a quarter of a million people visited during the 3 weeks that he was on exhibit.
in September of 1906.
Yes.
Why? I mean, what was the...
Yeah, there was this obsession at the time with this idea of a missing link about, you know, these people, I guess, I don't know what you would call them, but these specimens who were somehow midway between apes and human beings. And the reason why there was such fascination with Otabenga is because besides his small stature, he had teeth that had been chipped into points that the person who brought him here was able to easily depict him as a cannibal, as a savage. Of course, he was not. It was a popular conceit across the Congo of young men who did this as a form of bravery. In some villages, no young woman would even look at you if your teeth were not beautifully chipped in this way.
Filed like that.
But in the American context, it allowed Samuel Werner, the African explorer who brought him here, to depict him as a cannibal and as a savage.
The exhibition of this young man was supported by all the leading scientists of the time and the leading thinkers of the time.
One of the most eminent scientists of the time was Henry Fairfield Osborn, who was one of the trustees of the Bronx Zoo and who was intimately involved in the idea to exhibit Otabenga.
And William Hornaday was one of the co-founders of the zoo and, one of the world's leading zoologists.
Right. He was the founding director of the zoo. And also the founding director of the National Zoo in Washington, D.C.
To the faint pleas that this was not humanitarian, Hornaday wrote that to the contrary, he said, Otabenga is lodged comfortably in one of our best rooms in the primate house.
Right. And that was his defense that, come on, we gave him the best room in the primate house. And he told that to the New York Times.
First time we've ever hearing about this. How's this story been out of the public, not been reported?
Well, it's been sanitized. So in 1974, the Bronx Zoo in its own history, and then it mentions Otabenga, but it curiously says that it's unlikely that he had ever been exhibited.
This is in the history, the Bronx Zoo's own history.
Right, written by the man who at the time was the curator emeritus, who presided over their archives. And
so they're washing their hands of this.
Pretty much, and saying it's unlikely when there were voluminous documents in their own archives, you know, documenting daily what was going on with Otabenga in the zoo, and also in its own zoological bulletin, the New York Zoological Bulletin, the Bronx Zoo Bulletin, had an article about the exhibit.
That interview was 7 years ago. Back then, I invited the people who run the Bronx Zoo, the Wildlife Conservation Society, to come on this program to apologize. I never heard from them. It was not until 2020, 114 years after Otabenga, that the organization finally did apologize, citing, quote, the persistence of racism in our institution. When Otabenga was freed from his cage, he went to an orphanage in Brooklyn. Later, he lived at a theological seminary and college for black students in Virginia. But depressed and still longing to go home to the Congo, Otabenga committed suicide. He was thought to be 25 years old. This would be a wonderful time for a break, a commercial maybe, but we don't run commercials, so let's move on.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
Hey, Mom, what do you think?
You look like a gangster.
By the time I grew up, there was $30 billion a year in cargo moving through Idlewild Airport. And believe me, we tried to steal every bit of it.
And they damn near did. That movie, of course, is Goodfellas. When it celebrated its 25th anniversary, I called up the man whose book made it happen, Nick Pileggi of Bensonhurst. Goodfellas, your book was called Wise Guy.
Wise Guy, yes.
And then the movie came from it. And the Wise Guy was the guy we saw in that little clip, Ray Liotta, who's playing Henry Hill.
Right.
You knew Henry. What kind of a nut job was this guy?
Well, he was exactly who he is. He was a hustler. He was a street guy. He
became enamored with these wise guys and mob guys who were in a taxi cab shop across from where he lived. And he just fell in love with that lifestyle. He loved the idea that they could play cards all night and nobody bothered them, that their cars were parked in front of fire hydrants, the cops never went by, that the priests walked by and tipped their hats to the mobsters. They were the most powerful people in that neighborhood. We're talking about Ozone Park near Howard Beach. And
they were so respected.
And highly respected by everybody in the neighborhood. There's this one church in Brooklyn on 65th Street where if you walk in, it's a beautiful church with great stained glass, all of it contributed by mostly a couple of grocers and a hardware store man, but most of it by ex-bootleggers and wise guys who were in gambling and that kind of stuff. And you look up, and in addition to the usual angels, with the little things and all that, to the corner, if you look at a corner, you got 3 guys in overcoats and fedoras and their wives and children right there on the ceiling.
On the ceiling, a frieze.
Yes, a frieze of this family. Now, they are one of the families, or the family, that contributed most of the money to that church.
And a crime family.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's one of the named families. This is all, you have to remember, all of this happened before Joe Valachi, before Kifava, before everybody began paying attention to organized crime. Back in those days, even the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover of the FBI refused to acknowledge that it existed. He said there's no such thing as organized crime. So there was no public attention, no law enforcement attention, or God knows congressional attention to looking at them at that point, because they had contributed almost all of the congressmen who were elected out of the New York City area. I mean, Meyer Lansky's son, for instance, Paul, never wanted anything to do with any of this business and wanted to go into the military and wanted to go to West Point. This is Meyer Lansky's son. So I was talking to the Lansky's daughter, Sandra, and I said, how did your brother graduated from West Point. How the hell did he get into West Point? She says, a congressman pointed him, because in those days a congressman would write him in and he would get accepted. And I said, who? And she named the Brooklyn congressman who did it.
Henry Hill, the wise guy.
Yes.
Of course, at the end, rats out all these guys. Were you surprised? Was he surprised that he wasn't whacked?
I'm surprised. He's surprised. The FBI is surprised. Ed McDonald, the U.S. attorney who actually ran this whole investigation, he's even more surprised.
And is in the movie.
And he's in the movie. Yeah, he's the prosecutor in the movie. I mean, he tried to keep it as authentic as possible. And the irony is, Henry died about 2 years ago of a heart failure, and he was in his early 70s. And everyone else, all of those guys who wanted to kill him, all of the guys he testified, they all died before he did. Not unlike Henry Hill, I grew up in Bensonhurst. I knew those guys. I saw the power they had. I saw the influence they had. I saw the benevolence of some of them. And I saw that a lot of these young guys I was growing up with who were going in that direction were really mean guys. You didn't want to have anything to do with them. And but that's the life they were taking. So I knew them, and I was always fascinated. Who were they?
Let's close with my good friend Ira Burko, sports reporter, columnist, author, a life of distinguished writing. Ira also tells terrific anecdotes, like the one about his summer job when he was 16.
Well, I was working for in Chicago, West Central Clothing and Jewelry Company.
Okay.
And they had these religious pictures of Jesus, and they light up. You plug it.
They light up?
They light up. They had little fake flowers and Jesus on it, and I went door to door, and the thing is with a wage assignment, and if somebody buys the picture, it's $1 a week for 30 weeks rather. But they want the owner of the West Central Clothing Jewelry wanted the people to come in and buy clothing and jewelry. So it was sort of a come on.
Yeah.
But I also sold in Spanish.
Jesus as a bait and switch.
Yeah. So, but I'd walk in, I'd have something really beautiful to show you, ma'am, and plug it in, and it lights up, and Jesus sort of comes alive in the picture.
Did you sell many?
I sold many. And I would get $10 for every one I sold, and the highlight was one day I sold 10 pictures.
Let's talk about Walter Matthau, who you got to meet, and of course had a I guess an identity as a sports writer, as Oscar Madison in The Odd Couple.
Yeah. Well, when he died, I wrote a column, and I said one of the great sports writers of all time has passed away, and it wasn't Red Smith, and it wasn't Jim Murray, and it wasn't Dave Anderson. It was Oscar Madison.
Right. How did you meet Walter?
I had written a play about Red Smith, a one-man play, and he was going to do it. Then he died, so he didn't do it. But we became friends. And then he told me a story, which he says was true, but he was a very good storyteller. And it was about Pia Zadora. We all know Pia Zadora, who tried very hard to be an actress and a singer,
but had no talent.
But had no talent. And Walter said that he went to see a play with Pia Zadora, and it was the Diary of Anne Frank, and Pia Zadora was playing Anne Frank, which was totally miscast.
Yeah.
And so
you think?
And so he said that at the end of the play, when the Germans come into the store looking for the family, which the family was up in the attic, and so the Germans come in looking for the family. Walter said the audience stood up and started shouting, "She's in the attic! She's in the attic!"
How much have I loved hosting this program? I can't count the ways. I can say, though, that I am enormously grateful to you for honoring the work by tuning in. CUNY TV handed me this job 8 years ago and said, do it your way. Pretty sweet. And with the help of dozens of very talented people, that's what I've tried to do. So ciao. Hello. I must be going.